I'm now going to demonstrate what's called dry brush. This is a really nice technique for the flare out, for creating almost a linear cross contour appearance, as if each bristle is a pointy line. The key to this project is finding a variety of brushes, particularly old ones. You can even use a toothbrush. When they start to split like that, that might be a good one. But you don't know which until you test it. That's the next most important thing. Is let's say you have a composition and you want to make this closer. Let's say you want to make this a texture back here. In order to know what this brush is going to do, you've got to do a tester sheet. So let me go ahead and show you that process, because you got to have that. So you're not only dealing with the water, the saturation, the kind of brush, and the area and the size that you're going to deal with, you're dealing with the layers of marks that you need to make in order to get there. And it might not even be the brush for it. So let's say you have your brush, you have it somewhat saturated, and you make a mark. See, that's not good. You can wipe it on a paper towel. See now, God, that happened pretty quick. The key is to barely touch down. If you press too much, you won't get that effect. I'm barely holding the brush loose, and I'm barely touching down. And I'm starting to get that dry brush. See, as you go, you can check the saturation, and the idea is to build on that. So you might use that as a base layer. Great thing about this too is you can still see the paper through it. This brush is not a good brush, so I'm not going to try to get too close to the subject, but I'm just kind of getting a layer of that. Now I'm going to try a different brush, one that's going to make a more delicate mark on here, and I'll lift it up so you can see. So that's kind of a little bit scratchy, but it's, you know, it's an interesting version. Now I have a little bit of a softer brush here, and I'm going to see what mark that makes. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So I'm not going to add more paint or more water because I'm onto something here. And still I'm barely touching. See how it gets better as I test it? Ooh, that was a good one. You can see that. It's like on the certain angle I made it, it worked. So I'm going to do another layer down here. And this is basically flare out, only dry brush. Since this brush is a little more controllable, I'm actually going to get to the edge and start pulling out so that it actually acts as flare out. Flare out can happen without it being really dry brush, but it's just a nice way. In fact, you can flare out, which I'll do on the other side. Flare out and dry brush, they're very similar, but let's say I do a layer of flare out without dry brush. That would be more wet, and I want it to be like an underpainting layer here. So I would place this to the edge, pull it out. Place this to the edge, pull it out. This is a very quick, place it, pull it out. This way you can get all the way around without water, without drip down, without even wash. It's called flare out. And it features the object and the horizon line here without being dry brush, but it's kind of dry brush. So that would be a great layer, because look, as I go out here, look what I'm getting is dry brush. But the key is to not go all the way. So let's say this is a wall of texture, and that's the distant space. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to experiment with another brush. So lots of experimenting always on the side. I'm going to try a watery one, barely touching down. See how watery and non-dry brush that is? So I'm going to come over here and ever delicately. This is one of the few times you would use the paper towel for anything other than lift out or cleaning your area, but I had so much water on there, just gently so I wouldn't ruin the brush. Okay. So now watch how long it takes for me to get to it, to what I want. it's running out of paint. See now, now we're getting somewhere. See how cool that is? Looks like bits of Scotch tape or something. But I had to go all this to get to this. So when in class, when I walk by and I see somebody with this on the side, they're always doing a better job than just winging it and putting it on there. So now I can come in here, but do it in the air first, because you don't want to be, I'm barely holding this. It's like hanging out of my hand. Oh, here we go. Feathering. And the reason I know it works is because it worked here. Now I'm going to be more comfortable with flare out and dry brush. So now I can go like this, like I did over here, only with dry brush. Place it, dry brush. Trace it, dry brush. It's all speed. It's all fast. That's what watercolor is like learning that confidence so that you can do these bold moves. But it takes time to learn how to be comfortable with that and to know the brushes and the... See, look how cool. Now I'm getting kind of into this. Super cool. Unexpected, that's the key. Unexpected. See how this is getting all kind of split? That's good for dry brush. Some people like to buy crappy brushes for this. Crappy brushes are pretty useless, but for something like this, it's one of those few times. Now I'm crisscrossing. Crisscrossing in the back is key. Now, but I want to leave white. So now that's enough. I could do another layer with a different hue, but I really don't want to because I'm afraid to lose the white. Now, because this is now looking kind of wimpy, because one thing leads to another. If you do one thing, you have to do another thing. So now I'm going to build one more layer of flare out, of regular flare out. You can see how I place this. Place slowly, move fast. Place slowly, move fast. It's like a place and move. It's fast. I went over the edge, but whatever. With watercolor, it's better not to fix mistakes. Always better. Because if you start messing with stuff, you get in big trouble, and then you have to throw it away. It's easy to overwork something. Oh, look at that. I added dry brush just for kicks. Oh, see now I gotta fix this thing. It's driving me crazy. I gotta go like that. But see, I don't want to fix it too much, but I want to make it look purposeful. That was just enough to keep your eye from going there too much. But if I keep going in and nitpicking, then I'm gonna have this big blob, and it's just better to leave it be. Okay, now if this were like, I like it this as it is, but I wanted to show you one more thing on this process. So I'm going to make it a little busier. I'm going to put, I'll put like a log or something, because when you're doing a landscape or something, anything that's sort of cylindrical, you have this great opportunity with dry brush. Super cool. So I'm going to use a color that's already in there, but totally shifted, subtly shifted. If I use the back of this, I'm not going to get the same, see, as if I did it on the front. That's why you never want to use the back of watercolor. Look at that, it's so much different. Because see, the thing with watercolor paper is it has a tooth. It's toothy, which is why it holds the paint. And the better the paper, the more toothy it gets. But you can see that's better. So I'm going to just go in with a little more kind of a blue-green. And I wanted to show you, I'm going to do a little more pigment so you can see the technique. There we go. See how that, oh wait, you're not even seeing this. Here I am, la-di-da, and you don't even see it. Alright, so this is more pigment, obviously. And you can see that even on the warm-up, it's starting to be pretty interesting. I get so caught up in painting, it's sometimes hard to remember. I have to put it where it goes on here. Alright, so I want to show you how this will work here. I'm going to go like this on the picture with more of a like that kind of a dry brush, a little stronger. If you're in a drawing class, you remember you do cross contour because it moves this way and it comes around this way. And it comes this way. So if you're drawing, let's say, a tree, a fence post, a jelly bean, whatever it is, it goes up and down this way. It also goes this way. And you can even do a little bit of darker value by doing some layers this way. And you can see how it starts to create volume. You don't really want to go too dark, but, and always test, always test. But this is in the foreground. And I am using the dry brush technique. And then perhaps on this there would be some volume. So it's almost like you're drawing with a pencil. So that's dry brush. And you can use all kinds of saturations. Obviously this is really gross. This just ruined the whole thing. And I can keep messing with it, but it's a lost cause. If this were me, I would start right over again. Because, you know, but it's just a warm-up so you can see. Maybe I'll just do something here so you can also see, like maybe a band of dark on a sphere. I much prefer to paint without pencil, but it's something you really want to build up to. This isn't going to do me any good, but at least I have the technique on here for you to see. So lots of ways to do it. You can even do layers of dry brush on top of other layers. But it's all about testing, and I didn't test enough before I did that. That's how it got to be a blob. And even if I try to balance it with more darks elsewhere, it's kind of, it's done. But that's the dry brush.